Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. For me, it is a Saturday night, August the 25th, 2014. We're getting very close to Halloween, and lots of people are doing all their scary stuff, and get the scary games going out, and they're doing all this, all the things that you would do for Halloween. I don't usually partake in it, to be honest with you. It's been probably it. When was the last time I did anything as far as Halloween is concerned? Probably when I was 12, or was it earlier than that? It had to be earlier than that. It had to be maybe 10, 9, maybe. I can't quite remember. I know that I got out of the spirit of it very, very long time ago. Very long time ago. I would venture a guess to say I never really was in the spirit of it. And it's for multiple reasons. One is the horror stuff is usually kind of humorous to me, for one thing. But for another, it's I don't know. The thought of putting masks on never quite was that appealing to me. I was never very unique or original in my costume choices when I was doing it at the time. I just sort of always took the easy route that I could take. And it was all for the candy for me. I didn't really do it for any other reason than for the candy. But and now that I'm older, I am paying the price for that. So yeah, it's lots of stuff going on there. It's a relatively slow news week as far as I can tell. There's been a lot of semi-updated announcements for things. I've been trying to sort of refocus myself on the indie scene. It's kind of difficult. I've been keeping up to date as much as I can with a lot of these indie games that I, come across, and it's a full-time job and a half to try to keep them on your radar, because they do either operate very quickly and update very quickly, or they don't. And when they do, it's usually a big update. And there's all community things that go on, and I was just thinking about this the other day because I was recording the episode of Soul Zero that you guys have probably already seen. It went up on Friday, and I was looking around for ideas of what to do, because obviously I wanted to continue playing the game. I liked the game, but I didn't necessarily want to start over from the beginning, because I could, and I probably will. But it kind of, after a while, it might get a little bit old for people to watch the same map that they've seen before. But I was just, I was looking at stuff, and the developer had started a thread on their forums about, sharing sort of challenge maps. And I thought, oh, that's an awesome idea. That's really cool. And so I wanted to get in on that. And as I was doing that, I realized, for a game that I play as much as Soul Zero, I didn't even have a forum account. I hadn't even registered an account on the forum. Mostly because I have been on there before, but I've always been sort of a lurker. As with most things, I tend to lurk around and not really add anything to the conversation. But I finally actually created an account on there and did some posts and all that stuff. And I feel like I need to sort of re-engage with a lot of that stuff. I was doing at one point, things on Reddit where I was, looking at indie games on there and providing some feedback. Soul Zero is one of those I provided feedback on Reddit. It's where I learned of it first and foremost. But I haven't really done that for anything else that I found on Reddit, which is kind of a shame. I really should be a little bit more on the ball with that. Steam is kind of a weird one though. A lot of the games I end up getting on Steam, and I feel weird about putting sort of reviews and stuff. Reviews in general, but also like feedback and all that kind of thing on the Steam pages. I kind of feel weird about, because that doesn't go away. That always stays there regardless of what version you were giving the feedback on. Now there are forum stuff, which probably is a better area to put that, in the forums. But under the reviews and stuff, it's like, oh, okay, well, you can't really specify what version you were using. You can't really specify how long it's been out there. Well, you can, but it's not immediately obvious when you're looking at stuff, and it wants a rating and all that crap. It's like, well, it's an early access game. Why would I give it a rating? It's not done yet. That's the point of early access. But all those things set aside, I should be a little bit more active there too. I should be a little bit more active on Reddit. I'm trying to refocus myself. I sort of went off on a tangent here and started looking at AAA games left and right. And there's a lot more AAA going on my channel than there used to be. Or at least it feels that way. Maybe that's not actually true, but it feels that way to me. It feels like I have a lot more AAA stuff on my radar than I ever did have. And I still want to make sure that I'm keeping up to date with the indie stuff. And I guess the real crux of it, what really made me think about it, was that it's been months, I think, since I released a side quest video. And it's not from a lack of trying either. It's just a lot of the games I've been looking at and researching just haven't really struck a nerve yet, or struck not struck a nerve, but struck a chord, with me, where it's like, oh yeah, this would be really cool to do a video on, or I have recorded videos on them, and I look back to the video going, hey, that's not, that's terrible. I can't put that on YouTube. If I say I can't put it on YouTube, it must be really terrible. But yeah, it's just I've been sort of caught in that little web, that conundrum, where there's things I've been looking at, things I've been researching. I haven't really done anything with them yet, and I haven't done any videos or anything like that. And my criteria for doing the side quest video was always, I'd like it to be at least a half an hour, and in order for that to happen, I'm going to start the game off from the beginning usually, or at least after the tutorial, and it has to be interesting for me to talk about. It has to be interesting to play. It has to be interesting for people to watch you play. Those kinds of things, which are, you would think that would go without saying, but there's a lot of mobile games, and I harp on them a lot, but it's because I keep trying to find a good mobile game to do. I harp on them a lot, but there's a lot of mobile games. There's a lot of games out there in general that are fun to play, but not necessarily fun to watch somebody else play. And then there's a lot of games that you get that you come across that are very, very early alpha, very early tech demos, and they don't really show. There's not. I mean, the fact that it's an alpha means it's not really going to have any polish, but I've seen alphas that were more polished than others, right? I mean, I'll pick on Soul Zero again. Soul Zero, for an alpha, when I first saw that back on December 15th of last year, when I first did my first episode of Soul Zero, that game in its alpha form was very well fleshed out. It was an elevator pitch that was well thought out. I didn't quite know the elevator pitch myself. I've become recently aware of it, but there was enough there. There was enough substance there that you could see what was going on. You could see what was in the mind of the developer. You could see what they were going for. I see a lot of alphas that are, you play them for about 10 minutes and you go, I don't know what I'm doing or why I'm doing it. I can kind of see where they're going with this, but they're so scatterbrained about it that you can't really tell, or it's so early that there's no substance to it. It's just a bullet list and nothing more. There you go. I'm playing an early alpha game that's a bullet list. I'm playing bullet list games instead of actual games. But yeah, so it's an interesting area to be in. It's an interesting area to try to curate. You could be a curator of, that guy that goes and finds, or girl that goes and finds the games, the diamond in the rough, if you will. And there's a lot of rough out there. Oh my God. I was I was perusing Steam Greenlight, as I tend to do. I just click on new and I just say, okay, what's new on Steam Greenlight here? And it's the amount of Me Too's that were not very good. I mean, it's one thing to be a Me Too. It's another thing to be a Me Too and not be very good at being a Me Too. There's just so much. There's so much crap that you have to weed through to get to the nuggets, and then even then, Steam Greenlight is not the UI for that. The way that is laid out is not very conducive to finding stuff. It's kind of a weird thing to say, right? It's like it's got a search, bar, but what the hell do you search for, right? There's no real categories under it necessarily. I mean, there are and there aren't. And it's, I guess the real problem is that it's all box art, right? Or, one image. It's like, here, this image will show you what this game is, and then you roll over and you get the first paragraph of description text. And it's like, well, yeah, it's not really helping me at all. So you have to sort of click through things, but then it's like, well, you immediately see something that is so, you see box art that sucks so bad or is so real, it looks like it was done in MS Paint or something like that. And you immediately skip over there and like, I don't feel like clicking through this. I'll just go look at something else. But the reality of the situation is there might be something out there that just has some really crappy box art on it, but it ends up being a fantastic game, and you've completely bypassed it because you couldn't get past the the opening graphics, or your initial concerns are valid. It's very hard to tell. It's very hard to navigate Steam Greenlight, and to be honest, in the long term, Steam Greenlight's probably going to go away, and it's probably just going to be early access, and everybody gets access to early access or whatever. But who knows? I mean, for right now, you deal with Greenlight, or it'll take on a different form at some point. But yeah, it's very hard to find stuff on there, and navigate that. And there are days that I wish that I did this full time, because like I said, it feels like a full time and a half job to do. And indeed, there are those out there who do it that way. That said, I still prefer to be a programmer and a YouTuber as a hobby. But there have been days where I'm like, you know what, I could probably do this full time, but I would have to be a hell of a lot better. I'd have to be a hell of a lot better at it, and I'm not there yet. But so off on a huge tangent there. I'm not quite sure. I mean, I did mention when I started the episode that it was a slow news week, but man, was that a tangent and a half for a slow news week. But I think what I was generally getting at was, I in general, I'm trying to get my social skills back up. I haven't actually tweeted anything that hasn't been an automatic tweet in ages. And I sort of, I get, it's weird. I get Twitter block. a lot. And I think it's because I'm limited to 140 characters. In fact, I'm almost guaranteed that it's because I'm limited to 140 characters to say things. I mean, yeah, I could use Twit Longer or one of those other services, but I'm not sure how many people actually bother to click through those, number one. And number two, I still feel like I need to conform to the medium itself. The medium itself is limited for reasons, and I feel like there's a lot of people out there that manage to navigate that really well, and by my trying to skirt around that, I'm sort of doing myself a disservice, because I should be more succinct in the things that I have to say. At the same time, it's a lot of I guess it's almost, I sort of get, I don't know what you would call it. Maybe it's not quite writer's block, but it's more like writer's stutter, sort of. it's a weird phenomenon. It's like when I write something, much like when I speak, there's a lot of pauses in my words. It sounds like I'm very labored when I try to say things, and for good reason. It's my brain is very slow at trying to process exactly what is going on in it, and I have learned in the past from saying things that I didn't mean and having them interpreted in ways I didn't intend, and hurting some people in the process, that I've learned to sort of measure myself to the point where I take a deep breath before I say things, to try to give my brain a chance to catch up and make sure, hey, is this really what you want to say? Are you sure this is going to be interpreted the way you want it to be interpreted? And then there's others out there that, can blissfully say whatever they want, and then they'll just apologize for it. And it's nothing wrong with apologizing. It's just I try to avoid saying the thing in the first place that it would require me to apologize for. But in so doing that, I get the ahs and the ums, as you've heard plenty of times here, and indeed right there, to try to buy some time to let my brain catch up. But also in writing, when I'm writing things, it might, there are those who can sit down and write, a good review on something, not a review, but a good feedback piece on a game that they've played in 10 minutes. They can just bang it out in 10 minutes, and it's it says what they wanted to say. It's relatively succinct, and it's got, it's on point, and it's out there, and it's in a comment. Something that would take that person 10 minutes to do will take me upwards sometimes of an hour or two, because I am a revisionist. I revision all the time. I write something out, and then I rewrite it, and then I rewrite it, and then I rewrite it, and I rewrite it, and I rewrite it, because I keep just going, because it's like an RPG for me. It's like there's this dialogue tree going on, and I'm choosing all the different dialogue options to see what I end up with, and then taking the end states, putting them together, and going, okay, which one is the one that actually matches what I actually want to say and what is actually in my brain at the time. I do that even with talking with people too, and that's why I end up having to pause a lot when I'm talking, because I keep going through all these different dialogues in my head. I'm like, okay, what if I say this? Is the answer I'm going to get from this the thing that I really was looking for, or is this not what's really going on in my brain and all that stuff? And because that takes me, I guess, an extra amount of time to do, I tend to always put it on the back burner. And because I'm like, well, the hour that I spent writing those 5 bullet points in a Reddit comment, I could have spent recording 2 episodes of, the first Templar or something like that. And I need to I need to stop that line of thought. I need to take a step back and say, all right, feedback is important, and it's also important to have it in different formats, because not everybody is going to sit there and watch a long-winded 30-minute episode while I fart around in their game trying to figure things out, right? They might, and indeed some do, but more than likely they're going to want to see, let me see all the bullet points of all the things. Let me see the cliff notes, if you will, of that video. What came out of it? What are your thoughts? What were you thinking? What feedback do you actually have? Probably read that and then go, oh, you know what? This is actually valid feedback. Let me watch the video to see how he came upon that feedback. Right? It's the old lure them in with a piece of cheese type of thing. So I have to get back to that. I have to get better at that. I have to really hammer that one home. I feel like the channel has sort of lost a little bit of that indie flavor. I still like the AAA games. I'm still going to continue playing AAA games. But I want to bring back side quests, and I want to make it a little bit more reliable in its usage, a little bit more reliable in when it appears. Because as it is, I do kind of feel like at times I'm in sort of a... Sorry, I just hit my mic. I hope that didn't translate through. I do feel like at times that I'm in sort of a little bit of a rut, which is weird to say because I am a Let's Player, right? So invariably I'm going to play a game all the way through, and it's probably going to take 20, 30, 40 hours, and that translates to 20, 30, 40, 50 episodes, right? I mean, that is par for the course. That is what happens. And yet I feel like sometimes I get so caught up on the release train, right? Like, hey, I need to make sure I record some First Templar because I need some for the week. I need to make sure I record some Forza Horizon 2 because I need some for the week, and I need to make sure I record some Deus Ex Human Revolution because I'm only down to one episode left that I haven't released yet, and I need to record that. I kind of get into that pattern where I'm like, okay, let's go back and play this. Okay, let's go back and play that. Let's go play that. And at nowhere along the way am I saying, okay, let's also take a day to, go do some research on this game that I just saw, or do some research on that game, or maybe I should go play this game and record it and see what comes out of it. Or, hey, how about I do a live stream on more than just, one day out of the week? Particularly given that the live stream is basically me doing a live recording of the what the hell game is that? Divinity Original Sin. It's just basically me doing that, or doing some of the behind the scenes on Minecraft, but on the Livecraft Mine server. But I haven't been doing that as much, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Minecraft in a little while because there's some news about that. But yeah. I think I've beaten that horse to a death. Basically, I'm thinking of new and I'm thinking of taking a step back and refocusing around indie stuff. Still going to have AAA stuff around. Still going to keep playing AAA stuff. I still have a lot of AAA stuff on my radar. I've been, as of late, like a racing game fiend all of a sudden. I mean, I've been watching like some of the Need for Speed games, which I never really got into the Need for Speed series at all. But I do find there are a couple entries in that series. I mean, it's a huge series. It's got something like 19 or 20 different games that have the Need for Speed label on them. But there's a couple along the way there particularly some of the newer ones that actually are rather fantastic that I never really took a look at. And I'm surprised. There's a lot of YouTubers that I follow that do racing stuff, and I haven't seen too many that do any of the Need for Speed games. I've seen them do like, F1 or what's the other one? Driver San Francisco, or there's another one in there too. I know, I believe someone was doing Distance as well, the early beta for that, or the early alpha for that, whatever it is at this point. So yeah, it's weird. I haven't seen too many of the Need for Speed stuff. And then I went to, I think, World of Long Plays or something like that, and saw a playthrough of one of the Need for Speed games, and I'm like, you know what? These games are actually, even though they're sort of cringeworthy, some of them have some full motion video in them that's rather cringeworthy. Despite that, though, and some of the themes are like, oh yes, gearhead, metalhead, it's just very gearheady themes in there. But which not a big deal. I mean, that's the culture, right? I mean, that's it's just one way of doing things. They were actually rather fantastic. So I have to take another look at those, and maybe you'll see a few of those pop up on the channel eventually. I don't want to do too many racing games at once. I do definitely want to do Distance when it comes out, but that will also wait if I'm still doing Forza Horizon 2. Because I'm trying to make sure that I maintain a variety of stuff. So I don't want to do too many racing games. I don't want to do too many space fighter games, although that's kind of a harder one to not do of, because I love the hell out of those games. Trying not to do too many RTSs at the same time, those kinds of things. But it is what it is. The sort of diversity of games on my channels, but something that I've always tried to strive for since the beginning. And that is a good segue into one of the things I wanted to talk about, which is that there's actually a news item, and that is around Minecraft. So there was a little bit of news, just a news blurb right now. Phil Spencer, who is the Microsoft community manager. He's a Microsoft guy, Microsoft head of something, who has been talking about the acquisition of Mojang, or the in progress acquisition of Mojang and Microsoft. I don't think anything's been finalized yet. In fact, I think it takes until they're saying until the end of the year. It might take before all the paperwork is finalized and everything else. But he was talking a little bit. I'll leave you a link to the Polygon article that kind of gives a brief overview of it. But he was talking on an IGN podcast. Wow. He was talking on an IGN podcast about Minecraft and what Microsoft's plans for it are. And I mean, he's basically said what you would think somebody would say in that space, which is, hey, we're not looking to change too much. There will be changes and people won't like them, but it's very hard to come up with changes that everyone is going to like anyway, which is, true of any game. But the one part of it that I sort of, and he also was talking about, there's no plans for Minecraft 2. It doesn't really make sense to do a Minecraft 2 right now. Those kinds of things. But the one thing I sort of latched onto was, he said that he wants to create some sort of feature parity between the platforms. And I'm putting those words in his mouth. The feature parity part I'm putting in his mouth. But basically he said he wanted to bring all the different platforms in alignment with one another. And specifically, he said something along the lines of, wants to be able to have console players and other players have access to modded servers. And this this is the part that I sort of keyed on, and I kind of shuddered a little bit at. And it's not because I don't think that console players and everything else should have access to it. I think they should. It's just I'm not sure how you would achieve that, given the way things are. I mean, right now the modding scene in Minecraft is basically take the disassembled take the disassembled source code and build against it. Now there's an API that sort of allows you to, Forge and whatnot allows you to build against Forge, and then you're not actually touching the source code of Minecraft. You're not distributing the source code of Minecraft, which is the most important thing. It's just you're writing against an API, which then knows how to communicate with the obfuscated Minecraft code base, which is well and good, and that works well on PC. But I don't know how you would accomplish that on the consoles and mobile devices. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that would work, unless they mercifully finally introduce an API to Minecraft. But here's the problem with that. The engine that they have is not really set up for a service orientation type of deal where I can just call in through an API layer and do what I need to do. So I have a feeling that they've re-architected it a bit, particularly with 1.8, because there's been a lot of behind the scenes features that have been done, a lot of performance tweaks and whatnot. So I imagine it's well and fresh in their minds. I just don't know how effective an API is actually going to be. I guess I won't know until it actually materializes and we can actually look at it. But it's that sort of struck me as the one thing that I was kind of leery about, because I'm like, if they really want to create, and again I'm putting words in his mouth, feature parity between the, say, Xbox 360 or the Xbox One or the PS3, PS4 versions and the PC version, then that either means they're going to do some weird latching thing that mods would have to adhere to in order to work on all those systems, or B, they're going to make it so that the PC is kind of hampered in some way, shape, or form as far as mods go. And I don't know what that would be. And again, I am completely speculating here on that. And by hampering, I mean it may not be technologically hampered. It may be legally hampered. In the way mods are distributed or otherwise have to be, say, blessed in order to be widely distributed. So those are my generic thoughts there, just based upon what was said. And again, I'm reading way into something that probably was a throwaway quote that just happened to be included in that article, and I do not know anything as far as what they actually plan. But I will say this, and this is my own observation and my own feelings and my own thoughts about what's going on as far as Minecraft goes. And these are just my thoughts. These are just my feelings. There's no evidence. There's no, well, I mean, I guess there could be evidence, but I have nothing to back it up. I have just my own feelings on the matter as far as Minecraft and the community goes. I have a feeling, and I had this feeling over a year ago when I started my channel, and the feeling is even stronger now. The feeling that I have around it is that Minecraft is starting, the popularity of Minecraft amongst YouTubers is starting to wane. It seems like, particularly with vanilla Minecraft, it seems like, especially with the 1.8 version here, where there wasn't a whole lot of user features. There was, but there sort of wasn't. And well, let me put it this way. I shouldn't talk about features. I should talk about the feeling of it. The feeling of it is that it was a very long release, and it didn't really add that much substance to the game. I mean, we have a new boss that nobody feels like fighting, down under the ocean. We have a few new blocks. Banners are kind of cool. I admit that. But all in all, the vanilla game is stale. And it's been stale for a while. And I think it really needs a big shakeup as far as something on the scale of the original Halloween update that brought the Nether in, or the original Adventure update that brought potions and villagers and various other things into the game. It needs something else on that level. It needs a big shakeup, I think, to get eyeballs and whatnot back on to people playing vanilla 1.8 again. That said, a lot of YouTubers that do Minecraft specifically, or have Minecraft as a big part of their channels, I'm seeing almost universally, the ones that I find anyway, the ones that I've been following, have all been suffering from the same thing I've been suffering from, which is a lack of inspiration to do things in vanilla Minecraft. And we've all been trying our best to keep it fresh and keep it going, and I've started to get a little bit more inspiration. So I've been back on the LCM server doing some things. But I saw it a year ago when I started my channel. I was like, I'm not going to base my channel entirely on Minecraft because I feel like it's starting to die out. It's also it's been very saturated for a long time. And you have to be, the best of the best to get any kind of traction as far as that goes. I still enjoy the game, but it has started to grow some mold on top of it, I feel like. And I'm seeing a lot of the YouTubers that I follow that play Minecraft predominantly on their channels starting to sort of punt a little bit and go, oh, I'm going to just not really do much in vanilla. I'm going to do some modded stuff, but then I'm also going to do these other games over here, completely different from Minecraft. And I'm starting to see more of that being injected in, like, hey, let's do some daily of this or do something of that nature. And that's a very good thing to see, I think, because I'm one of those people that just likes variety, and I like to see them growing their channel that way instead of just focusing entirely on Minecraft. Because you have to admit, if you're doing 24/7 Minecraft for the last 3 years, you have got to be hating life entirely. I mean, I say that sarcastically because obviously they're getting paid well to do it. I'm looking at things like, Ethos Lab and Captain Sparkles and some of the bigger YouTubers. They're probably getting a decent paycheck, based, mostly on having Minecraft content. But I gotta believe that deep down somewhere, if you were to get them to have a moment of absolute clarity and truth, that they would probably say that they're really tired of it and they would really rather play something else at some point in time. But they probably feel a little bit trapped by the fact that most of their viewership is there for one thing and one thing only. But again, I'm putting words into people's mouths that I probably shouldn't do. Probably, I'm a terrible, terrible person. But those are what I would feel like. I would feel like I was trapped if that's all I had on my channel and that's all that people wanted to see. And me personally, I like variety, so I would be very remiss. I would be very unhappy if that was all I was doing. It was just one thing all the time. So I those are just sort of my general thoughts on Minecraft in general. I just feel like it's I feel like a corner was turned a year and a half ago, and I think we're starting to finally see the cracked stone bricks, if you will, in the foundation. And we're starting to see a lot of these channels that build up their fan base around Minecraft starting to make Minecraft a secondary thing and starting to focus on other things. And to me, I was expecting this at some point. I'm glad to see it happening, because the last thing I want to see is for those channels to disappear entirely because they finally just give up and say, I can't deal with this anymore. I hate to use it as an example, but I'll use CoStar as an example, because he basically for quite some time there stopped his channel altogether, because he had multiple attempts he tried multiple times to branch out to other things besides Minecraft. And he's the guy that actually got me involved in Minecraft. Like I watched his videos. I was like, oh man, this is actually, because my first thought of Minecraft was, who the hell would find this fun? And then I watched some of his videos. I'm like, hey, actually, this is a hell of a lot of fun. And he was primarily why I purchased the game. I was watching his videos, but he had multiple attempts where he tried to do other games. Like he tried to play Terraria. He tried to play something else too, and I don't remember what it was. But I remember him trying to branch out, and I liked those other series that he was doing. But they got so much hate from the community about, I don't want to see this. I want to see Minecraft. I want to see Minecraft. I want to see Minecraft. That he eventually got tired of it and just took a break from the whole thing. He's come back again, and now he's doing a variety of games. There's actually no Minecraft on his channel really, which I expected, because that was one of the things that I think he's just completely tired of. But now he's doing a lot of other things now, and I'm glad to see that, YouTubers branching out, because really, to really appreciate games, you got to play games. You can't just play one game and appreciate all that there is to have as far as gaming goes. And when I see them branching out like that, I see, okay, these guys are here to play games, and enjoy games. They're not here just to leech off and get money. You know what I mean? The money is necessary. It's necessary to eat, but it's not necessarily the driving force behind what they're doing. And that's, you can see, when you see somebody who does a variety of games, that's usually the thing that I see, that I take out of it. My takeaway from it. I am actually a bit tired right now. I'm sorry if that's coming through on the recording. I'm just for some reason I've been holding off recording this. It is kind of late at night, and I had to do a lot of driving yesterday. I was took off from work to do some driving. I had to drive around a bit, do some errands, and it was. I feel like I'm recovering from that still. I don't know why. It's a day later, more than a day later, and I still feel like I'm tired from that. But I guess it's just me projecting my own stuff on here. So a few more things as far as news articles go here. There a while back. Let me see if I can find it here. I believe it was on. Yes, it was on Polygon. There was an article, a very short one, and it talked about how there's people claiming to be YouTubers who are going up to indie devs and getting, keys to their games. and then turning around on these like key distribution sites and selling those keys. And I think the name of it was like "Free Game, Claim Your Loot YouTuber" was, I think, the name of the article. I don't have a link to it for you to see. But basically, Lezik, I probably pronounced that wrong. Lezik Lizowski, from Wastelands Interactive. I think their most recent game was called Worlds of Magic. Did a little informal study about that game to find out how the keys that he distributed were being used, and he found that he found a lot of keys that ended up on a site called G2A, I think, which is a sort of a key reseller. And he's finding that people were, reselling the keys, the reviewer keys that he gave out to his game, and getting a bundle of money off of it. So it brings up sort of a larger issue, which is that of, how do indie devs vet people out and make sure that they're not, giving keys out willy-nilly to people who are then trying to just turn a profit, and they're not actually in it for what they were talking about. They're not actually reviewers. They're not actually trying to make YouTube videos or anything like that out of it. And I have a few thoughts about it. I think one of the things that they point out was, make sure that the YouTuber, try to have them contact you through their YouTube channel, which allows you to verify that they have a YouTube channel. But I think I would even go one step further than that. And I would say, what's the best way to put this? I'm going to say don't elicit people to participate, but rather seek people out, which is kind of a dumb thing to say as well, because honestly, half the time you're a developer, you don't have the time necessary to seek out all these small YouTubers or medium-sized YouTubers and try to get on their docket, right? That's, you want to spend as much time as you can working on your game, and as little time as possible on the marketing side of it. Although that might be a bit of a fallacy in and of itself, but I won't go into that because I'm not a marketing guy, so I couldn't tell you there. But so I can see the thought process behind it, and I see developers go out on, indie games and stuff like that and say, hey, here's my game. Anybody, is there any YouTubers out there that wanna play it? Here's, get in contact with me and I'll give you keys and all that stuff. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but if I were putting something out there, I would want to know if the people who are playing my game are the type of people that, if the YouTubers who are going to do videos on my game are the type of YouTubers that I would want representing my game, so to speak. Because there's plenty of screamers out there, and cussers out there who may not necessarily present a good, wholesome front for your game, if that's the kind of game that you have, right? They may not be, if you're doing a family-friendly game, they may not be exactly family-friendly. So I would kind of think that you would want to vet them out yourselves and say, hey, let me go look at who does what kinds of games and what kinds of games they play on their channel, and see if this is someone that might be interested in that. On the same vein, the big YouTubers will never get around to your game, probably. unless your game absolutely blows them out of the water, they will probably never get around to it because they are constantly the ones on the top of the list for, when devs ask other devs, like, hey, who did you get to do your YouTube stuff? And like, oh yeah, I had, Total Biscuit do it, or I had Jesse Cox do it, or I had Captain Sparkles do it, or I had PewDiePie do it, or something like that. I mean, those guys, as good as they are at what they do, I imagine that they get absolutely bombarded by companies like, hey, play this, hey, play this, hey, play that, hey, here's a key for this, here's a key for that, like completely unsolicited. And I can't imagine that they have, being the small operations that they are, I can't imagine that they have anywhere near the amount of time to do proper reviews of all those things, right? So in a way, you're kind of wasting it by giving it to them. But I understand the reasoning behind it. The reasoning behind it is really, hey, they have huge audiences. They have very polarizing opinions, and there's going to be a lot of, once they release this video, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on it. And that's a good thing. You definitely want some of those larger, channels to pick up on you and do the whole speed dating thing. But to be perfectly honest, the smaller YouTubers, number one, almost never get contacted directly by anybody. Number two, if they do get contacted, it's somebody who's just doing a mass spam campaign and they don't even know what you play on your channel, so they have no idea that, giving you a key to a puzzle game is, you don't play any puzzle games because you don't like them. And three, and this is probably the most important thing, even though that they don't have very large audiences, that YouTuber will probably play the hell out of your game if they really like it. Probably play a lot of it. And on top of that, the people that are there watching that channel, the people that are subscribed to it, probably not subscribed to the person for their personality. They're probably subscribed to the channel to see those games, to see those types of games. They're there for the game. They're not necessarily there for the commentator. Whereas the larger channels, your PewDiePies, your Total Biscuits and stuff, there's a lot of people that will watch them, read from the phone book, right? I mean, they don't really necessarily care what they're playing. They just want to listen to them. They just want to watch them. They like them for their personality. They don't necessarily care for the game that's being played. It's a background thing for them. Whereas the smaller ones tend to be the opposite, right? People are there to see the game. They're not necessarily there for the person because they're probably like me and they have no personality. I'm just being brutally honest here. Just being brutally honest. So that's my thought on that. The other thing, and the other thing that brought this up is that I saw a tweet a while back, or actually it was this week. It was a couple days ago, and I took note of it because it was something interesting, and it goes along the same point here. Is that Vlambeer, the developers from Vlambeer, namely, and I don't think he's a developer. I think he's just the chief marketing guy or whatever. Rami Ismail. I hope I pronounced that right. Because every time I look at it, I want to say Ishmael, but it's not. There's no H in there, so I think it's Rami Ismail from Vlambeer has they have this early alpha version of a site that they're calling Distribute, and I'll leave a link to it. But it's supposed to basically be a place where where indie game developers could go and say, here, give me a list of vetted video content creators and journalists that I can possibly spam with my game. I'm using the wrong term there, but I can possibly contact about my game. And I think it's a fantastic idea. It's still very early alpha. I don't think anybody's done anything with it yet. And I just happened to see a tweet about it, but I didn't see anything around it. there are a few things in there that kind of give me a little bit of pause that I see on that page that I've linked you to, where it's like, hey, we don't hide any results, but we do have this sort of kind of score thing that will score the vetted person on what kind of reach they have. I'm like, okay, all right, I understand where you're going at. You want the indie devs to be able to tell like what that person does and what kind of reach that person has, because they're going to be the marketing arm. But I feel like it doesn't go far enough, right? Like, I feel like there's no real, and maybe there is, and I've never seen it, but I feel like there's no real site where, video content creators and whatnot can kind of register up and say, here's the type of games that I like. And you want to do, if you want to speed date me, here's what I like to drink. Here's how much of a cheap date I am. I think that is actually better than, because I know one of the complaints a lot of people have, and it's one I kind of have too, but I don't bother with it so much, is that, a lot of indie devs will go, oh, I want only people with more than 100 subscribers, or I want people with more than 1,000 subscribers. And it's like, subscriber counts really don't matter. They really don't matter in the long run. But it's the only metric they can go on, right? That's the only metric that they have to say, okay, this person is serious about that. I mean, I've seen plenty of multi-thousand subscriber channels that put out content like once every 5 months, right? And I see other channels that have 2 subscribers that put out videos every day, right? It's just, you gotta pick the right metric for the right target, right? But it's I see what they're getting at, and I think it's a good idea. I think it just needs to be probably vetted out a little bit more and have some more. It's almost like one of those dating sites, right? It's like, how many different variables can we put into the mix to get you the best match possible for what you're looking for? And I feel like they don't have enough variables yet in that mix. I feel like they focus too much on the reach aspect and not enough on, is this person going to be an advocate in your corner for you? Are they going to be someone that's really going to enjoy the heck out of what you're doing? But I digress. There's other things on here as far as news goes, but I'm just going to pick off the short and sweet one here. Warhorse Studios. These guys did a Kickstarter a while back that I talked about a while back, called Kingdom Come Deliverance. It's a medieval sword fighting not swashbuckling, sword fighting knight sort of game, horseback riding. I don't know what else to call it. And they have released what they're calling a technology alpha demo, which to me is just a tech demo. But I whatever they want to call it is whatever they want to call it. I have access to it. I was just getting it installed earlier. So I may, depending on what state it's in, I may do a video of it. We'll see. I really excited for it. They did, almost $1.2 million of funding, and I think it's even more than that now because they've been doing funding on their own on the side. So I think I'm hoping some good things come from that. That got a lot of Kickstarter backing. It's got a lot of steam in it, behind it, a lot of wind in its sails, if you will. Try to use every every saying I possibly can, and I can't wait to see to get my hands on it. I've got the tech demo downloaded. I've got it installed. I just haven't actually launched it yet. So I want to see what's there. I'm hoping for good things. So keep an eye out. I might have a video on that. And also, as I've said earlier, I want to make sure I get some more side quest videos out. I may change up the format a little bit to where I might do multiple games in one video, or I might make the videos just a lot shorter. I'm not sure yet. I kind of want to do multiple games in one video more than make the videos shorter, but we'll see. I want to. There's a lot of things that I want to cover that I feel like I can't get into the 30-minute space there. So I might end up doing, like a 3B where I do maybe 3 games for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 10 minutes really. Math. I'm not good at it. Yeah, probably do 3 games for 10 minutes each, or maybe do 2 games. I'm not sure yet. I feel like I can do something better with that, where I can just maybe do a couple games at once and just take just say here's what I've got so far. Here's the little nuggets that I can pull out of it, and then make sure that I turn them back around and also make comments on their forums and on their on Reddit and wherever else I found it, to try to flesh that out a little bit better and maybe get a little bit more information into the hands of the developers than what I have been doing. And that is my hope. That is my attempt at being a true not a true reviewer. I don't want to be a reviewer, but at being a true alpha tester, I guess, if you will. Because I feel like I'm remiss in my duties there, where I don't really give feedback, but it's in video form, and it's drip. It's a little drip here and there of feedback, and not what it really could be. So I think let me see what else we got here. I think that will just about do it for this episode of Cube Ramblings. Sorry, I'm getting that to that point in my brain where the fog is starting to roll in. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next Sunday.